So thanks for those who are returning this evening, and thanks to those who are joining us for the first time and didn't join the last workshop. The last one was fantastic. I thought it went really well. I heard that a lot of people learned something, no matter what you came into the meeting thinking, feeling. You learned something about a different perspective of Route 15, which is the whole point of this. To find common ground, to work as a community, to find solutions, which is what we're focused on tonight. So quickly, I just want to go through the agenda. The welcome and orientation is going to take half a second. I'm going to run through the survey results, these are the Lucketts survey results, just a high level recap. We'll also go through the workshop one recap. So if you weren't here last week, we'll cover what you missed. There's also material on the table that covers both those things, the results of the survey and of the workshop. And then we're going to get into the meat potatoes, which is the breakout rounds. And I'll let Carol introduce the rest of the session later. But let me skip ahead for the sake of time. So we are all here tonight to generate community-driven solutions for our challenges with Route 15 that we all face. We do have a facilitator with us tonight. So Carol Napolitano, let me put your information here. She is not a Lucketts resident, but she has lived in Loudoun County for over 50 years and has 30 years of experience as a facilitator. We also have Ann Hennessy, which was over here, waving her hand in blue. She is a retired engineer who has worked on commercial and residential land development projects in Virginia, Maryland, and West Virginia. She's worked in Loudoun County since 1985 and now works with dogs and plays music. So thank you, Ann. If you all have questions as you're kind of working through ideas, she's a great person to ask. Hey, is this realistic? Is this possible? So just raise your hand and ask for Ann if you have those questions. So for the Lucketts survey, we had 388 responses. 95% of you said that Route 15 has major issues that need to be addressed. So large majority of us say yes, something needs to be done. The top concerns that came out of that survey were congestion and traffic flow, along with access. This is local access getting on and off 15, in addition to safety and traffic volume. There was a strong emphasis on preserving rural character. That was a very common theme that came out of the results. And a lot of concerns about the county proposals that they don't reflect the community values. And then for the workshop one recap, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm going to get closer here. There was an astounding number of you that said roundabouts over lights. We want roundabouts to keep traffic moving, that lights are a lot of the source of the congestion. So that was a very common theme from the first workshop. Another thing we heard were concerns about going from 4 lanes to 2. The county's proposal now shows 4 lanes to Stumptown for the bypass, and then it goes to 2 lanes. So there was concerns around the bottleneck and congestion that could cause. There was also concerns for the blue and orange, so the 1 and 2 options. Those concerns included emergency access, impact to wells in that area, since everyone is on wells for their water. It requires moving the floodplain, which could have potential impacts like they saw in Selma, with houses flooding, the removal of homes, it boxes in the wildlife sanctuary, and also could lead to increased congestion, as we're not really sure for those intersections how those are going to be handled at this point in time. There's also concerns with cut through traffic. A lot of people are cutting through neighborhoods to get around and avoid 15. So good discussions around that. And then there were talks of things that we could do, such as adding turn lanes, shoulders were appropriate. I'd consider adding public transportation options for the commuters, lower speed limits, add traffic calming measures, and consider pedestrian tunnels within the village. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it over to Ann, just to kind of reset with everyone. She is going to talk through the flow of both the blue and the orange options. I think it's our understanding at this point in time that those are the 2 options that are on the table for the county, that the green and the yellow are not moving forward. So Ann is an engineer. She's going to walk us through the facts of how traffic would flow with both of these options.
Okay, we're first going to look at the blue line on the map. This is option number 1. It begins just south of Merritt Farm Lane, and then it reconnects to Route 15 on the north side of Lucketts, just south of Black Walnut Lane. So, how do you get around it and use this road? If you're coming out from Merritt Farm Lane, you can go north on existing Route 15. If you want to go south, you would be taking this little spur road that will connect you to the new bypass. If you're coming out of Sphinx Ferry Lane, you're going to take the roundabout that's already planned and going to happen. And you can go north or south on existing Route 15. Okay. So from the roundabout, you can go north on relocated New Valley Church Road and connect to the bypass. If you're coming out of Lucketts Road, to get to the middle, thank you. You can go north or south on the existing road or cross over Stumptown Road and connect to the bypass. Then, if you're coming eastbound on Stumptown Road, so there you go. You can go north or south on the bypass or continue straight into the village. Then you want to go over to New Valley Church Road. So if you're coming from New Valley Church Road, from Bald Hill Road or Taylorstown Road, you are going to have to go north or south on the bypass to either connect to Route 15 North, go south, or get into the village. It's not clear from the information that's available at this time as to what's going to happen with the intersection with Rose Finch Circle. And we also have no information as to how traffic control is going to operate at any of these intersections, as to whether traffic signals are going to be required or exactly how that's going to function. So now we can go on to the orange one, option number 2, which begins at the new roundabout at Sphinx Ferry Road and relocated New Valley Church Road. And that is going to connect back into 15 on the north side at Black Hop Lane. So, if you're coming from Sphinx Ferry Road, you can use the roundabout, go north or south on the existing road, or pick up the bypass. Coming out of Lucketts Road, you would continue on Stumptown Road if you wanted to take the bypass, or go north or south on the existing roadway. Coming eastbound on Stumptown Road, you can go north or south on the bypass, or continue straight into the village. Again, we don't know what's going to happen at Rose Finch Circle. If you're coming out of New Valley Church Road, you're going to connect into the bypass and have to take that either north or southbound to get anywhere. So that's basically how traffic would. Yes, four lane. Both proposals are 4 lanes up to Stumptown Road and 2 lanes north of Stumptown Road.
Any quick question?
Yeah.
What was the question?
How many intersections? They both have 6 intersections.
Yes.
No problem.
Any other factual questions?
What's the likelihood here?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. So welcome back to all of those of you who were here last week. Can I see a show of hands of who was here last week? Wonderful. And a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. And would you put your hand up, please? Excellent. Thank you so much. So I just want to add a little coda to the conversation that just ensued. And that is, everybody is here tonight, I hope, because of a recognition of two things. One is that we agree that there are issues, and I'm using the royal we. I'm not a Lucketts resident, but I am very vested in well-being of Loudoun County. So we agree that there are problems with Route 15. We also have a large consensus that says none of the options that have been so far presented solve the problem in a way that works for the good of the whole, particularly in light of the community values that have been expressed. So just so we know, that's a given, that's a starting point. The idea tonight is to say what alternatives could we offer up by way of giving the county something else to consider. It is more in line with both solving a problem and addressing the problems in a way that supports community values. And what are the community values that have been identified? Space, scenic views, peace and quiet, and the experience of rural living. So last week, if you were here, and even if you weren't, last week we were functioning as explorers. We did a process called the World Cafe, which became the Lucketts Cafe for our purposes. And it was really about, think of a funnel upside down where individual ideas are being put in. And as a result, at the bottom where that funnel opens up, upside down, we then arrive at a greater shared understanding. Last week was not about making decisions. It was really about exploring, being thought partners. It was about developing more of an understanding, more of an education, and more of an awareness of what the diverse perspectives were in the room that we might need to try to reconcile. This week we have a very different purpose. This week we're going to turn that funnel right side up. And this time we're going to take all of the perspectives that we bring, and we're going to take what we've learned from the survey, and we're going to take what we've learned from what emerged out of last week's dialogue, and we're going to put those in. But now, what we want to come out with at the end are some decisions, some proposals. But tonight is about decisions and results. And the exploring was all about laying the groundwork and putting together the elements and making really thoughtful decisions. So I want you to think of yourselves tonight as designers. You are here to design possible solutions that work in a way that allows you to feel really good about solving a problem and supporting value. Yes, sir.
I was personally cash chill Izzy like other service. I think like 2 years ago, Disney was coming in and that community was crazy. I they chill. We need to take what they did right here.
So
Shut it down.
agree. And if you can hold that, because the last part of our meeting tonight is going to be brainstorming strategy for how we can get this out into this. So great question, and it's on the agenda. Good with that? Okay? Okay. So last week, I think one of the things that worked really well was that we all agreed right up front to some operating agreements, knowing how impassioned a lot of us feel about things one way or the other, which is good. We're going to care deeply. But we agreed that the conversation would be in accordance with some ground rules. One of them was, there's some operating agreements, I like to call them. One was, listen generously. Our tendency is to want to say, I've got a point of view and I want to get out there as fast as I can and articulate it. But the fact of the matter is, the more we listen, the more we seek to first to understand, the better decisions we will make. So that same ground rule or operating agreement applies tonight. Listen generously, seek first to understand. The second one is make room for other voices. And I'm repeating myself for the people who were here last week, bear with me. You know, there are two pieces of that. One is we want diverse perspectives. We'll make a better offers and better proposal if we take all of the diverse perspectives in the room into account. The other is we have different styles of communication. Some of us are extroverted. We don't know what we think until we hear what we say because we process out loud. And if there's a break in the conversation, that's an invitation for us to jump in. Others are introverted. They don't like to speak until they've had a chance to kind of process and let the thing simmer a bit. So the challenge in a conversation like we're going to have tonight is to make sure that if you're extroverted, you hold back a little bit. Make sure that other people have a chance to speak. If you're introverted, that you move forward a little bit and make sure that you get people. Third one is think of your table mates again as thought partners. Treat each other as people who can all help to find solutions. The fourth one is work for the good of the whole. And I know your example, your company is going to be, deeply affected by one of these solutions anyway, the tree code. And so it's very tempting to say, I've got a stake in this. I've got to think about myself. But I'm going to ask everybody to think about what's the good of the whole. You are a community, after all. You're a community. And finally, uh, make sure that you keep those community values that I mentioned. Space, scenic views, peace and quiet, the experience of rural living. Keep that in mind because that ought to be guiding how we develop these synergy. So tonight, I think is going to be a very fun evening because we're not going to do the same number of rounds that we did last time when we got up and listed around tables. We're doing a little bit of that, but it's going to feel different tonight because what you have on your tables right now are a number of materials, including several maps, each of which has a sheet of transparency over it. And I want to tell you what we're going to be doing, and then I want to get you ready to do that. So first thing is, we're going to be doing a mapping exercise where you're actually now beginning to design your solution on the map. So there are Sharpies, there are some materials on your table to help you with that process, some reference pieces that will help you think about that together. Before you begin to work, however, can I keep your attention for just 1 minute? I'm going to get you into the exercise very quickly, but we need to do a couple of things. One of them is we need to fill in the table. So this table here has only 2 people. We have some other tables that aren't full. This table has some spaces. Can we tighten up as much as possible because it's going to make a difference in how we do the rest of the So hoping is that we have a max, what's called a max. Hang on. I know you're making me friend. We need a max mix. Here's what that means. Check around your table. What we're hoping for is that you have some people who were here last week because they can be helpful in kind of knitting up some of the threads from last week. And those people have a plain white name tag on. And that you have some people who are brand new. I don't know what the ratio is, so it won't be perfect, but the people that have the blue name tag, the blue edge name tag are people who are here. So if you're new in particular, you should be educated with some people who were here from last week. Make any adjustments you need to. One more thing, and that is if you're all from the same neighborhood, probably not going to help us get the kind of good of the whole. So can you kind of mix it up a little bit if you're all from the same neighborhood table? I know that's sensitive, but mix it up a little bit. So can we make those changes quickly so we can get started? Thank you. Okay. I'm going one more thing. I keep saying one more thing. But so last week that we agreed, and it's very difficult sometimes when you're in the throes of designing to keep an eye open, but we agreed that when you see my hand go up, please become silent and put your hand up and do your best to help the people around you see that. It's a very efficient way for everybody to get back into full community. So if you see my hand go up, kind of just a little eye out, hand up, silent, and try to help the people around you see that. Okay? So Erin is going to share with you what you have at your table, and then she'll hand it back to me to give you a time frame, and we'll go from there.
I'll get to this quickly because I know you all want to get started. As you're drafting, sketching, putting pen to paper, there is a legend here to use. This is for consistency so that when you share out your map, it's easier for us to read if we're all kind of using the same symbols. If your symbol's not on here, just make a kind of best guess of what people would interpret. Okay. You also have this sheet. This is what you're actually focusing on. It has the takeaways from last time and then what you're focusing on. This will also be up on the slide deck in just a moment. I don't see the goods table, but there is a survey takeaway. Should be it all the things. Not seeing it now. Oh, there it is. It's really lengthy, but it's a summary of all the things that were key takeaways from the survey. Then you have 3 maps. One map has a lot of content on it. It has floodplains. It has parcels. It has the number of cars on each road. It has like the purple lines and orange lines that are not bypasses. You have a second large map that has the bypass options, so you can see those clearly. And then you have one really long map with the transparent paper. The long map is the one that you're sketching with the transparent paper. But when you get comfortable and you all think you have an idea that you want to move forward with, you can move the transparency and then write directly onto the map. Okay. You're going to come to Galena at the table. Yeah? All right. Okay, ready to get going. I'm going to give you a time frame. I'm going to give you a time frame. So, I know you're all getting familiar with using your table and the material. I want you to appoint a timekeeper, somebody who keeps an eye on time, and someone who will act as your spokesperson. Because at the end of this, we're going to be recording out. You are going to check in with you after 20 minutes. For 20 minutes, then starting that 20 minutes, go ahead and get started. So I want to clarify a couple of things. I've been walking around and noticing how you're working, and wow, the energy is just wonderful. But a couple of things to be aware of, and I'm going to give you more time, so don't feel like I've taken away any minutes. Here's the thing. What we really would like to get to by the end of the evening are a few really thoughtful proposals. So at this point, and as I said, I'll give you more time, but we need you to move from some of your preliminary conversation. And I know that when you've got a new mix of people, a lot of ideas come forward, and so that's hard to do. But remember that we're being designers now. We're trying to actually decide what might work. So we need to get to a solution as much as possible. If the blue option works for you with some tweaks, then maybe that's where you want to land. If that doesn't work, but the orange option works for you, maybe with some tweaks, then maybe that's where you want to land. If neither of those works for you, then what is your preferred solution? But I'm going to ask you to spend the next 10 minutes now moving to the big map on the bottom and actually, with the transparency, leave the transparency on. You gotta leave that on. But start to draw your preferred solution. Even if it's not perfect or full form, because our next step, listen for a moment, our next step is going to be to combine tables and compare notes. So we need you to have your offering ready to go. So I'm going to give you 10 more minutes to see what you can design as a table. All right? Go.
isn't it? Challenging. So again, we're not necessarily going to get to perfection tonight. We won't even get to consensus across this room tonight. That's okay. So I don't want you to be frustrated that we're giving it our best shot in the time we have to see what we can offer as an alternative. So I encourage you to be patient with this process. What we're going to do now is we're going to begin to knit up some of these ideas. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to combine tables so that you can compare notes and you can kind of see what the best elements of each idea are. Some tables got further than others in actually designing on the big map. That's okay. Wherever you are, you're going to bring that with you to your new clearing. And it's going to be the best ideas that you can share on the map or speak to if you didn't get to the drawing part. And it's going to be a little bit tricky to do this efficiently, so I'm just going to ask everybody's cooperation. We also have an uneven number of tables in the room. So I'll explain how that's going to work. Then I'll give the cue, and it will be after I tell you who your table pairing is with. We're going to, as quietly as possible, move two tables together. And at that point, the maps that you should have on your table to work with on each table are the large maps. If you did work on the smaller maps, fine, take those with you too. But what we're going to do now in this next piece is we're going to get one rendering from each group, that is per group, that we can then put up on the screen to look at and talk about. Everybody clear on what we're trying to get to? Yes? Oh, so these two tables are going to work together. Don't move yet, but you two are paired up. You two tables are paired up. You two tables right here are paired up. You two tables in the back are paired up. And I've got an agreement from these three tables up here to work together. So now can you, again, listen to what you're producing. And then I'll get you to move your tables and dig in. What you're going to do, and you'll have another 20 minutes or so to do this, is compare notes, use one of the big maps, write directly on the map, of what your combined best ideas are for a solution. Everybody good? Okay. And if you need another map, if you say, well, we drew on ours and we need a clean one, we've got one for you. So when you're ready to do your final, after you compare notes, we've got a clean map. All right, move your table, go ahead and get into your conversation. So who came up with the perfect solution? Oh my goodness. Hello. I wasn't expecting anyone to put their hand up because what we know is that there are so many interests. This is so complex that it is very difficult. And I know some of you were really struggling with trying to reconcile a lot of different interests. So here's what happens next. If you can take a seat so you're comfortable, what we're going to do is let each group walk us through where they landed. So we have the map up on the screen. And even if you didn't come up with a solution, what we want to know is what kinds of things did you agree on? And if you're the third person, you can come up, kind of point to things so that we have a reference right up here on the screen, so that we understand where did you find agreement. You can also tell us, everybody ready? You can also tell us where did you struggle? Where did you hit, spots where you got stuck and you just could not reconcile the points of view, because that's fair too. So, do we have any here just group that would like to go first, that would like to walk us through the solution? Yeah? All right. And are you the third person?
So my one idea, well, I don't know how well. Oh, can you zoom in? Okay, one idea was to go at the circle of Montresor, because those people are already using that as a shortcut anyway, and the road is pretty wide. It probably is 20 feet. I don't know how. Make that the 4-lane bypass. Then you're not going through so many people's property. The question, well, the problem is though, then we had to have work out how we got back through to Route 15 when we got north of Lucketts. But I think that could be worked out. Another idea from the other table was to create in the town of Lucketts and keep it a two-lane road and put in significant traffic like turning lanes. You can correct, add things, a walkway across and a raised pathway across, and then put, where was your circle over here? Yeah, the the snag we hit is, I mean, I love the idea, but I don't think it's going to fly with the county. And and that's, I'm trying to give them something that they can, because they're determined to 4-lane it.
Close. Yeah, sorry. But the idea here is essentially to close off this intersection and make it just a right turn only from northbound 15 onto Lucketts Road and build a bypass, a very short bypass around here, put a traffic circle here for not before, put a traffic circle here and a left and right turn lane here and put a traffic circle here and put the sound possibly to 25 miles an hour. And that way you get rid of the lights. You're spending a whole lot less money. You're not really taking anybody's property. But yeah, there's by where it vanishes, for example, put it so that it's only right turn lane only. You come out right here and you hit the traffic circle over here, and then you can reverse out. So that way they're not turning left. Left turn. On the traffic circle before the bridge is Lubbock Hill Road, right? Right.
Right. So traffic circle here.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, whichever you like, British English or American English.
The other, so another idea, which was quite creative, that somebody came up with, was, which might be a good idea. It was, why not recreate the town, the little village of Lucketts over on this farm over here, which I guess people say that a corporation already owns and plans to develop, and make it the walk. Am I in the right link? Oh, it's over here. Okay. I'm awful.
Yeah, corporation, whoever they are, what was it, Montana or whatever it was? Wyoming. Yeah, it's a front, essentially. There's a lot of developers, home delivery, I call them, at that address, so it's definitely some kind of front. Um, allegedly, they're talking about a strip mall there. I don't know why. Um, no, it's a rumor. It's a rumor, but you know,
But then we take the town of Lucketts, maybe move it and recreate it and make it the walkable community, but it's off the highway. You know, so that was another idea. And then did you hear me? I mean, people move. You can move houses and old buildings, and it's done. And the amount of money they're spending on this road, why don't we move the village and make it a really nice, walkable community where the businesses can thrive? And maybe it would fit in with the corporation's plans to develop. And then you just have the local people there, and the traffic can continue to go through the main part of 15. Then the final one was, and I'm not sure this will fly either because it goes right behind right by the JK Black Oak. But somebody came up with the idea of, see, I'm not sure where I am here. Is this JK? It's doing, no, but this is doing this going right behind they said that the trailer park is being sold. Oh, that's not the case? Well, they were wanting to take, right, right, and just make it a smaller bypass. So that's, a lot of people in our group want to keep the 2 lanes. I'm sort of pessimistic because I don't even live in Lucketts. I'm south of Lucketts at Rockland Farm, and my property's already been done, and I feel that the county's kind of determined to do the 4 lanes. So realistically, I don't know how that'll fly, but of course I'd love 2 lanes more than 4 lanes.
Okay, thank you very much. And we want to, 2 things I want to mention. We are prepared to work this evening until 9 o'clock. We have the center till 9 o'clock. So we have a little time. But that said, we do want to spend a few minutes at the end brainstorming strategies for how we actually engage the county so that we get our voice heard. So with that in mind, I want to try to keep the presentations to about 5 minutes so that questions can come forward, but everybody gets a turn. So who wants, Martha, you look like you're ready to go? Yeah? So at our table, we diverged. I'm not sure if either of us was a bypass, but we did. But we shared 3 principles, or 4. First, we want to have improvements that prioritize the community and manage commuter and freight traffic. The second one was that we want the county to prioritize the small area plan for the historic village of Lucketts. And the third one was that we want improved shoulders to allow for accident response and rerouting traffic, and do those basic safety things that will keep traffic flowing better. So 2 plans emerged. Mr. Ryan, who's been shopping his version around, is very successful at our table. And that one, as most of you already know by now, would have a roundabout just north of the village, and with a segment that goes down with a roundabout right in front of the new firehouse, and a segment that goes over here on Stumptown with a roundabout, and as well as a roundabout here. Then that would be accompanied by having no turns at the Lucketts intersection, no light, and just through traffic. And which would prioritize through traffic, but they're also, part of their plan was to have very much traffic calming within this section,
with raised pedestrian crossings and a 25 or lower speed limit. Did I characterize that pretty accurately? Okay. And so the second solution was based on the VDOT's innovative $14 million plan, which would be to relieve the congestion from the signal by having a quadrant intersection from over here to Lucketts Road. And their original concept had between the school and the athletic fields, which raises obvious problems for parents. And so I would have suggested moving that to south of the park to go around on the east side of the new firehouse with a roundabout. And what the VDOT suggested was that this could facilitate a back entrance to the school. And so that would mean parents coming home, take that quadrant intersection, pick up the kids at school, go up here, go home, or if they needed to go across, and they could go across here. Their alternative, unfortunately, said that they tested the roundabout here and it didn't work with the traffic modeling. I'd like them to redo that. And then said there would be two signals that would be coordinated to get the traffic through, but still allow what they call platooning, which is for gaps in the traffic, for traffic further north and south to be able to get in. What that would do is help keep the village together and connect it. Most of Lucketts residents actually live right here, the vast majority of them. This is where they live, this is where they want to get to, for their kids, for the playground, for the community center, and for the park. So that would prioritize making the village a unified place where commuter traffic and freight traffic are free to come through the village to get where they need to go on our terms, prioritizing that this is our village and no need to respect that it is a village and we live here. That's about it.
Any other questions for Martha and her table? Yes. Ready? On up, please.
She has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's his floor.
Approved to Montessor in the plans, the 4 lanes is Southtown, but it hasn't been approved or adopted yet.
Nothing.
Yeah, the C-plan says it's based on the study of the bypass will determine if it's 2 or 4 lane. But the proposals so far have suggested a 4 lane, but it's not set in stone.
Thank you. Okay, come on up. There.
I'm just gonna stay right here.
I just think it's amazing. Right. It's the big ear. I just think it's amazing that so much of our ideas have stemmed on working with something that makes our community better rather than getting trucks through our community. So what we've
between the two tables, we were really satisfied to learn that there's consensus, I believe, in creating something that's a village bypass rather than an area bypass. And let's see, orient myself here. Where we where we would begin our processes. We've got routes down here, which is going to be realigned. That's way down here. Sphinx Ferry and New Valley Church. Thank you. See you in a moment. Okay, and then we would imagine that this property here that consists of a barn with a kind of rickety fence around it, which seems to not be a residence at this point, that we would put a roundabout there and bring drivers up through the county-owned property that's behind the school and to the east of the firehouse, a roundabout here, which is essentially what other people have said, and cut way far north so that it's just at the edge of Suzanne Eblin's property. We want to try to minimize the amount of disruption that happens on private property. Crosses with a roundabout here, and then through here to a roundabout here, which is right opposite the wildlife sanctuary. So it'd be a roundabout here. This is really very close to what other people have said. And it's like any six-year-old could design this road better than putting an entire bypass around at huge expense and huge cost for people's residences. So that's what we would propose to do. And further, to get people to make it a walkable community, we imagine a pedestrian tunnel. Have one person in our group said a bridge over the road. A tunnel might be more feasible, but I'm not going to argue that point now. We need to be able to get people safely across the bridge, across the road, and I don't think that walkways are going to do it. So we decided that we would rather see a pedestrian tunnel or bridge. At the intersection in Lucketts, it would be right in, right out, right this way, or right this way. So there would be the removal of the light there, through traffic, goes through. We would deal with the road in a context-sensitive way. I know that's an overused word. At back, some years back, 10, 15, Martha, I don't know what time it was, me and Lockwood designed a plan for Lucketts, which included a context-sensitive design, which included landscaping, a brick textured lane in the center that can be driven over. It can be refuge for any pedestrian, but I'm not encouraging pedestrian traffic over the road to begin with. I would like to see things that were more attractive and affected your behavior in town a little bit better. Landscaping is one of them. And the brick center line that would take the place of the turn lanes. So it would be a more peaceful place to drive through. And using splitters as you enter town, much the same way they do in Aldi. If you've traveled on Route 50, you've seen some of these traffic calming measures that are already in place. And let's see, what am I leaving out here, Lisa?
Our other tables, if there might, since there are no traffic studies done yet, we might actually have to do another roundabout at this intersection to make sure that the vocals can get to where it needs to go. And we want crosswalks to make this a safe community.
And I think one thing in closing, I want to say that the memorandum from RK consultants said that the overall goal of this project is to analyze and select an alignment for Route 15 Lucketts bypass that meets engineering, environmental, and community needs and is supported by the public. Any of those things out here supported by the public? Do they meet the criterion that RK&K has been mandated to answer to the county for? I'm not really sure. Doesn't seem that anybody in this room would think that either one of those bypasses would solve any problems. Okay. 2 lanes. Only 2 lanes. It's for local traffic. This is already, well, according to the gentleman, Alex, as it had a bead, Martha may have a bead on the fact that we know that it's being designed for a 2-lane divided road, which I don't think is very practical either, because it restricts any movement in left turn
left turn. We have to turn right only, right in, right out. No, we didn't address that. But so no, I can't actually answer that. But I can't. We were dealing specifically with the bypass around Lucketts. Okay. Any questions? All right. Let's see if I can see and have you guys see at the same time based on my map here. So, two of our tables here, we have very similar ideas. So, I'm going to give kind of the overview of what the two tables were both talking about, kind of. And then I think the other table talked a little more about the details of the intersections. But the gist of what we were talking about was when you have a bypass going way up around here, a lot of people are concerned about it blocking the migration of those animals we're trying to protect in and out of the Black Oak Preserve here. So we are thinking if you stay closer to Luckett and have a much smaller bypass around it, the people who are living right alongside 15 right now with the mobile home park and some of the other homes in there are already used to being right on 15. We don't need to put it up here with people who are trying to be somewhere quiet. So they're already used to 15. Keep it right close to town. We're not disturbing migration. We're not just disturbing people's homes up here. And then, you know how when you're going down south on 15 into Leesburg, you can go left at that slit and go through Costco and Target and all that stuff. Or you can go straight and go into the really cute downtown area with the slow speed limits and the trees and things like that. If we do a similar slit here, we can keep the traffic moving around Luckett, and then we can have a really cute little downtown Luckett where you can cross from the mobile home park to the school, to the shop, everything like that in here without splitting it up and have a more, I want to say centralized, that's not the right word, but a more cohesive, there we go, downtown. And we didn't get into a lot of the details of what kind of traffic circles, stoplights, things like that. But the gist was staying close to town. It would take a tiny slice of the back end of the preserve here, but then it would keep that preserve open to the rest of the area and keep the traffic close to where it already is. Everybody good? I think we have one more report out. Yep.
Okay, I think we had 3 tables together. I can't say for sure that we had consensus, but I think there was definite support for the Luckett's ear, which is the route that would come around here. Keeping it tucked in as close as possible to Luckett's, behind the school, behind the community center. I think there's some variation in, you know, would a roundabout like right here make the most sense, or should we try and do a roundabout at Spanish, for example, and start to slow down that far north and then take the bypass there? Or you could have put turn lanes in at Spanish, because there was some agreement that that's a problematic intersection. Also talked about a roundabout at St. Clair to start the slow down coming down. 2 lanes the whole way. So yeah, that would be right here. Some concern about the Luckett's ear is, yeah, ideally that would be for local traffic, but you know, design consideration to how to keep it to local traffic would be something to keep an eye on. Also talked about a roundabout at Raspberry Falls, replacing the light at Raspberry Falls with a roundabout. Some talk about mirroring what Maryland has done north of the bridge. Again, roundabouts. Crosswalks at Lucketts Road. Again, I think people mentioned getting people in Lucketts across 15. Keep it 2 lanes. lots and lots of support for adding shoulders for safety. And that would start, much further south on 15. Whether we could have shoulders and say a median in Lucketts proper, not clear. But, make that as safe as possible within Lucketts proper, but definitely add a safety element with sturdy shoulders throughout the 15 project corridor. Did I cover?
Yeah, restrictions of traffic through like Compressor and Old School Road that have become bypasses.
Right, there was a creative idea to on Montresor and Welch Store to like have no rush hour traffic, like no, somehow put restrictions on those to not allow rush hour traffic through those areas, or make it 20 miles an hour through those areas, or somehow make them less attractive to the through traffic routes. Anything else?
So our group, we were a little split, so I'll talk our table. Our table was for, similar to this table, a tight western bypass that would start somewhere here and then come as minimally into the wildlife sanctuary as possible, but then come back somewhere before vanish. I think that was probably the county's original 3 option that got deleted somewhere without any community engagement. We didn't talk. Our table didn't have any eastern bypass solution due to the way kind of that's all situated. But the other one, if you would zoom out, Aaron, to Lovettsville Road and 15, I think we could probably, hopefully, all agree that the Lucketts traffic isn't the issue on 15. There's only about, for the fire station first due, which goes all the way to Waterford and almost to Lovettsville, there's only 7,000 people who live in Lucketts of all ages is our population. So there's no way we're clogging up 15. Most of the traffic is coming from our north. So our idea was at this intersection, make it a red light, where in the mornings it would be 5-minute solid red for the southbound traffic, and then 1-minute green. So, like, the problem I think we're all trying to solve isn't really a Lucketts problem, it's a Maryland problem and Pennsylvania problem. So we need to make it a Maryland problem by moving the traffic as far north as possible in the morning. And in the afternoon, we need to kind of get them out of here. But hopefully, by backing up traffic all the way to Frederick, they would just take 270 down and around on the main thoroughfares.
There is some, I think, wisdom in the idea of looking at what motivates people to do what. I live on 719, between 7 and 9. And when the quieting circles were going in Hillsborough, all the traffic, east and west, was routed down our road. When we moved there in 1977, it was a country road. My husband said if somebody came down our road, they either waved, beeped, or stopped in to say hello. It got to the point where during that almost 2-year period, if there had been a medical emergency, I'm not sure how we would have gotten out. There were times when it was bumper to bumper. And what we think happened was people did not like the intersection at 287 and 9 because that's such a bear of an intersection that they found other ways to get where they wanted to go, and 719 became a connector. So if you make it difficult enough for people to sit for 5 minutes, they'll probably figure out another way to get where they need to go. Yeah. I just want to stop. We have a few things to do to wrap up tonight. I just want to really thank you all. The time and the energy that has been evident, not only last week, but this week, and in some cases, from people who have been here both times, it really is a testament to your community. I really have to say that. Being willing to, this is tedious work in some ways,
It's frustrating work because there are no simple solutions, there are no perfect solutions. There's so many interests that are trying to be represented. The issues are very complex, but your willingness to come together to bring some optimism, some energy, some imagination, and some goodwill to this process has been really something that I will carry away with me. It's very impressive. So give yourself a round of applause, please. Just acknowledge. And I also just want to thank everyone who took a role presenting up here. You know, that was something that you had to do in most cases on the fly. So thanks to all those people that volunteered to get up and present. So we have two things left to do. We're going to tell you just a little bit about what's next, and I'm going to let Erin explain to you how we're going to process what has been generated. So one reminder, you'll hear it more than once, but please be sure to leave the maps here so that we have a record of what some of the design ideas were. And then, Erin, do you want to speak to what will happen after that? And then back to me.
So the plan is to take all of the maps that were created tonight. I'm a cartographer by trade, so I plan to recreate them into more formal looking maps that we can take and present to the county of saying, hey, these are options that we've generated and that have more community support than the current options that are on the table. Yeah. So there's a county meeting on the 8th. It's here, I believe at 6 p.m. Everyone should attend, voice your opinion. I'll bring the maps, and I have been emailing our board of supervisors. I haven't received a response. I haven't been pushing like suggestions or ideas. I've just been communicating, hey, this is what our community is doing. We have concerns, we have thoughts, we have suggestions, and we want to partner with you and what the future of Lucketts looks like, knowing that 15 and what comes of this is greatly going to impact the future of Lucketts. I have not heard from them, so I'm hoping that we can have more of a conversation on the 8th when they are here.
Okay, so a couple last things. One gentleman, I'm trying to see if I can find him, the person who asked early on, so how do we get them, essentially, how do we get them to listen? Yeah, I think he's gone. But again, the governing metaphor of all of this has been Luckett's voice. And we spent the first meeting saying, well, what does our voice want to say? What should we be thinking about? How can we formulate a message? What will clarify what we can offer as a collection? And then tonight it was about actually thinking about, all right, now if we combine all the ideas that came up last time, what might that offer look like and sound like? Now we've got to figure out, how do we get that voice heard? So this is the time when we have a little bit of time left to do some brainstorming. Erin has already suggested, show up here on October 8th. This is your space, this is your village. They're here on your terms in that regard. So show up and make your voices heard. Make sure that the wonderful energy and support that we have tonight is there when you have that audience. What other ideas do you have for influencing the board of supervisors? Let me work in this way just for the sake of efficiency. I was just like, how'd you know my name? I forgot I had an inside on. I wanted to ask a question of the group. Does anyone in our group know what is the next legislative action that would need to happen to change the current plan? Like, is it an amendment that needs to happen? Is it a vote? Is it? If nobody in our group understands that, I think we need to define that.
The county has already budgeted, and I have a budget document here for all the phases of Route 15. Could not have done that without a ballot the extension. So, and that would have required an amendment plan. which have been done. But as we all understand from this entire process, they have not sufficiently engaged. So I think what Aaron has done here and what we've all done here is shown them that they haven't addressed the needs of the community. One thing that is legislatively on the agenda is the small area plan for Lucketts. And it's just supposed to be the next historic rural village plan for community planning. And it's being done by a consultant, not by the Cantwell. But for that is our next up is say what we want. The Rotary Club actually voted and went to Supervisor Fitzgerald requesting that the small area plan be prioritized for. So I think an immediate pressure would be on to go to the supervisors and say, look what we've done here. You need to prioritize our village plan and not for. So that to me is a good place for us to begin to press elected officials to do the over. So when you say that, are you recommending that individuals in this room contact individual board of supervisor members? Yeah. Okay.
That was going to be my suggestion. That is how our voice will be heard. Is if you send them, they have to respond. They're elected. They're there for us, right? And they don't know if they get Aaron's nice large package, and you're one person representing us, which is great. But we need to go online, find their. You can find who their deputy is. So we need to bombard them with communication nicely and express our concern. All of them, not just the one.
I've already done that. Every one of the board of supervisors. Our supervisor chose not to respond. A number of us wrote. I think he responded to one person. The rest of us didn't say a word. I did get a response back from Phyllis Randall's office, which was gobbledygook. And I got one really good response back from Laura DeCronin, who said, yeah, you're right. This plan is a joke. Yeah, okay. Are you finished?
I just say, I'm going to
Do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just have first of all, I'd like to ask Ann, she's a traffic engineer. What do you think about all of this? I'll put you on the spot a little bit. We've been on the spot. I want to hear your opinion. And my opinion as a Lucketts resident is I think the bypass proposals are absurd. They do nothing to serve this village. Okay, so what you're recommending, John, is there's the number. If everybody in this room wrote to the Board of Supervisors individually, that might have a different impact than if an individual or collective speak to that for a second. So the reason that you all are here tonight, the reason that Lucketts Voice is a thing is because they've been hearing different voices say different things, and there's not been consensus in our community. I'm starting to see some, but I know we're still not there. So if we say, yeah, we all write to them and get in their ear, if we're not sending the same message, they're not going to listen. They're going to move forward with what they think is best because they're like, oh, they can't figure it out, so we'll figure it out for them. So one of my plans with this was to create a Lucketts Voice committee that represents our community, that's made up of people in an HOA, not in an HOA, on the east side, on the west side. Figure out what the community wants,
So taking these ideas forward and continue to whittle them down and refine them, and have that committee go forward as representatives of Luckett's community to take the proposals and say, we are representing the community.
He probably drives this train, and there's some stakeholders that have like more money or have used more money to get in it. And one of the issues is the Ruraltons, the Volunteer Fire Department, the PTA are all 501c3s, and they can't lobby, right? They can't use their money to lobby. They can't go and lobby for a political outcome, which these are political outcomes at this point. So I think on Aaron's point, probably what needs to happen is like any organization is going to need money to operate. And a 501c4 probably needs to be formed if it's Luckett's Voice or some other that can be a nonprofit that doesn't have that lobbying restriction, that then can lobby on behalf of the coalition of essentially the 501c3s. Because that seems to be the biggest hurdle, I think, is trying to get our community's resources, time, and money put towards this. That'd be my recommendation.
I think the press has been very interested in what Lucketts Voice has been doing. And I think we need to keep activity going. Our story here in Lucketts needs people beyond Lucketts need to support us. Those other supervisors represent Eastern Loudoun, other parts of Western Loudoun. We need more voices than ours. And keeping this alive through activities and through the press is one of the ways to do that.
So I have 3 questions, and so one of them is, I feel like a lot of us in this room really want to be doing something too while we're waiting to have a unified voice. Is it possible for us to have just a letter or something that we can be sending in that where it's many voices but saying the same thing to put pressure? So that's one thought. The other thought is, when is our representative up for re-election? And then my other one, actually, I love your point about the press. Do we have a press point, like a contact person that's doing sort of press releases and reaching out to other press organizations where we can be getting the word out as well? And then my last one is, what about also related to that would be social media and things as well. So I think the more pressure we put on them, it's better. The HOAs versus the people that are, and so that we have the signatures of everybody in this room. We're managing that? Yes, thank you. Good. Yeah. Press is here tonight. Press has been here. I'm just going to say that petition, my experience, the supervisors will read a petition as one letter. They will not see it as a lot of people. What I know it's work for everybody, but you really need to write your own letter and try to have your own voice in there. You can't have copies or a form letter. And I also know from the White's Ferry fight, maybe you want to start a Lucketts Voice website if you haven't already, or a Facebook page. Okay.
Am I correct in saying that everybody disagrees with the 2 proposals that are on the table now? Is that a unanimous decision? The blue and the yellow, the orange bypass, there's people that agree with that?
Listening to the presentations, it appeared to me that everybody had an idea different than the broad loop of the western bypass. Is that a consensus?
That was based on majority, it wasn't based on individual.
The majority is suggesting that the two proposals that are on the table by the county are not viable proposals. Okay. Again, thank you for the facilitation, and it's been really helpful, and it's been wonderful to see the ideas and people coming together. Also, thank you for the cookies, Mary. They're delicious. We have an election coming up in November, and we have delegates who are running. Where our delegate Mr. Higgins is running, and he has the opponent, Mr. McAuliffe. I don't know whether either of them have been asked about what they think about this. And whether or not they would support prioritizing what Martha was talking about, which is the local plan. It seems like it might be an opportunity to get this to that question to these candidates. All politics is typically observed as local. There's nothing more local than this. And I think that the real point here is that they're actually not doing what they said they were going to do, which is to prioritize the needs of the local community. And so we need them to focus on that. And I think, every opportunity we can take to ask them that question and put this in front of them is important to do. Thank you.
Letters to the editor? Yeah? Just to respond to the Larry Higgins, or Gary Higgins, I spoke to him at parent night over at Waterford, and Gary said he thought the eastern bypass was the best option, and that got ruled out right away. And he said that the Falcon Air had come to the county and represented Lucketts as a whole. Okay, so I'm just saying that's.
So, just to be clear, my name is Alex Isaac. I was, along with Bob, on the HOA board for Falcon Air. I moved here, built here, in 2018. I've lived in this community since 2004, since my first tour in Iraq when my wife moved to Leesburg in Potomac Crossing. So I know this area pretty well. I know Lucketts even more intimately now in the last 8 years. Bob and I sat down with Caleb Kirshner and with Phyllis Randall. We brought Phyllis Randall's staff member, senior staff advisor, out to Falcon Air, took her out to one of the homes on Black Talon Lane. We had engineer tape the edge of the property of the homeowner, as well as the HOA property, which was the common area. And from there, we pointed out danger close. I'm an Army guy. How close the softball fields were, and who thought it was a good idea to put a two-lane highway, a two-lane, not necessarily a four-lane highway, okay, right, encroaching on our community, but who thought it was a good idea to put it right behind a school, an elementary school, where they had just invested millions of dollars in a water treatment facility and had just built a fire station. And they said, you know what, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. And I had accused the staff, okay, accused the staff of threading the needle, as they said, and I told this small group here the same story, of threading the needle in the design phase. And they never left the luxury, the convenience of their own office. They were looking at satellite imagery, GIS, which is really easy for a surveyor to do versus getting on the ground and seeing how it makes sense. So Caleb, as well as Phyllis, both agreed that that made sense from a safety standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. The CPAM was approved with the western bypass. And I would be very transparent, okay? Even more so, that I didn't care about a western bypass or no bypass at the time. All right, I didn't care about it at all. I just didn't want an eastern bypass, and that was my interest. And I lobbied and got all the other HOAs together, and we presented that in a collective group along with Bob and a few others from our community, and went to the board and expressed that, and they moved forward with that. I have changed position since that time. And why did I change position? Just to be clear, I am worried that no bypass means that the de facto bypass becomes Falcon Air Place. From Sphinx Ferry Road to Lucketts Road on a daily basis, whether that community should be there, whether people in this room think that that community should be there or not, it is there. And today, 8 to 10 to 12 vehicles in convoy travel every morning from 6:45 to about 7:30. There are no sidewalks like Village Green. There are no lights. Okay, and when they drive through, and some of you I've seen in this room actually drive through beyond the 25 miles an hour, not to be accusatory, I apologize. All right, and you just wave. They just wave. And most of them are Maryland and Pennsylvania vehicles, and they just wave. Okay, I put my army hat on. I'm like, hey, don't effing wave at me. Slow down. Put your hand. Stop looking at your phone. We've already had a couple accidents in the community. So I don't want an eastern bypass. Okay, I'm not supportive of a no bypass concept. And furthermore, in closing, if you will, I love what Aaron's doing, but you're 8 years too late, and no one wants to listen to Ms. Martha Polk anymore at the board. And the other supervisors don't want to get involved. And Caleb, unless everyone here drops $1,000 check to go into a fund, all right, because you've accused, some of you have accused Raspberry Falls of giving Gary Higgins $30,000 or whatever ungodly number, all right, unless you're willing to write a check, and I'll write the first check. I'll write a check for $1,000, and my wife will be mad as hell at me, all right? But you got to put your money where your mouth is, because they don't care, per se, because Lucketts, in terms of a small demographic, and I know this, okay? I know this because last year I ran for office, and I understand what money is. And I understand where these leaders are in terms of the constituents and the money that they get outside of Lucketts. You don't compete with where their interests are today. So if you can figure that out with $1,000 check from each one of you, I think we can get about $40,000 tonight. Who's in? I'm in.
Okay, we're coming up on time, so we need to kind of wrap up very quickly.
I'm John, and I'm the city administrator for 15 years. So I have reached the stage where people consider me a member of Lucketts. That's what you have to do to become a member of Lucketts. I'm a strong proponent of the village plan. We're the only village in the whole county of Loudoun that hasn't been designated as a rural village. And so we have an opportunity here to really get after the supervisors and say, look, you've already approved this, it's been budgeted, read around it before you put another highway through this community. Because it's like putting the cart before the horse. Once you get a highway through here, if you aren't right, it's going to be really hard to develop a good village plan. And keeping with the rural atmosphere of Luckett.
All right, so time to wrap up. Thank you again for all of the great comments, questions, diverse points of view. I'm going to ask a couple of questions by way of closing, and then we'll make an appeal that if anybody can stay behind to just help us get things broken down, that we would be most grateful for that. But in here are my questions. What was best for you about this evening? Cookies? Can't argue with that. Mary?
garage because person who doesn't necessarily want any roads houses. I don't want any as I said to yours. I don't want anybody's home or anybody's children here. And I don't see it that any of the things that we had here in this table would interrupt anyone. And I think that someone should think that they spoke with the entire community was strong. And so I could not say that I really appreciate everybody's creative input. And I think that we have some, not like a year ago, if something better. And I do believe that the area management smaller net is the push forward. And most every time to do that. But I just realized I can get it because he seems to have some swag. I feel it much. I feel it much. As I prefer, and he's been like, I don't want anything to happen on this side. You want anything to happen to everybody on the other side of the road? I really think that we need to come up with a reasonable solution and this boys aims and we've been our camps and work together on this. The counties we have moved on. Innovated. And I really this is so so that I don't want increase rate so that things.
So, just to stay with what we're talking about, the bottom line is your idea and your comment about what was best about this evening is that your belief that people in this room were working with good intentions. And regardless of the solution and where there might be differences in those solutions, there is good intention. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to get a few more voices in before we wrap up. Best about this evening. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm one of the people that's not in an HOA, so it can feel kind of lonely when there isn't any representation from a large group of people. So I felt really nice to be in a room where my voice could be heard and I could hear other people's voices. And I really appreciated the spirit of community that we had tonight.
Thank you.
One thing that came as kind of a pleasant surprise tonight was that pretty much everything that was said up there was a short, concise bypass. It seemed like percent, I don't know, pretty high consensus. Yeah, I mean, the details can be worked out. That's what traffic engineers are paid to do. But I think, as somebody who was in Twin Tower Estates, I've said this before, the irony behind this is just amazing. They're going to want us to pay taxes to fund a bypass that's going to destroy the very nature of our community. It's not going anywhere with me.
What was that? That's good. Last question. What's your wish or hope going forward? What's your wish or hope going forward from?
I wish that as the first letter writing campaign going forward, that everybody in this room and whoever they can get as neighbors would write to all the supervisors and tell them to prioritize the small area plan for Lucketts. That would be a first step.
We've seen a whole lot of energy in the past two meetings in these past 2 weeks. And I know many of you have spent time on various issues in the county and know that it takes grit and endurance to keep making your voice heard. And, we have differing opinions tonight, but as you said, it was, 99% civil and everyone understanding and giving and taking. But this is a long haul, and not only does it take writing those emails, but having Aaron and Lucketts Voice coordinating our all overall movement so that they see it as not one petition, but the whole group moving together. But my hope is that everyone realizes that you got to keep at it, and you show up on October 8th, you show up at a business meeting, and although the rules have changed, and the first speakers, public speakers at business meetings have to be something on the agenda, but if there's additional speaking times left over, anybody can speak on any issue. And if we can make sure we have people at every one of those business meetings saying, prioritize our small area plan, pay attention to our community, and keep saying that, they can't ignore that. If it keeps happening and they see different voices, as Mr. Isaac said, they're tired of seeing me. They need to see lots of new people, and then they realize it's not just those same old people.
Just to build really briefly on what Martha said and what Libby said, I think consistency is so important, remaining persistent and doing everything you can to stay civilly engaged with an issue as important as this. One thing that I have not heard anyone mention on this, timeline-wise, there will be a public hearing in front of the board for this issue. That is expected to be in winter of 2026, so think probably the February timeframe. So doing everything you can to stay engaged with your supervisors, but also realize that it will be leading up to something, especially a decision on that point. So one thing to consider. Okay, we'll take one more.
So I spent a good part of my career working on Capitol Hill for Republicans. I'm a lifelong Republican. I worked for Henry Hyde, the great conservative leader. Most recently, I worked for Bob Corker, fiscal conservative from Tennessee, and a good man. I saw him last weekend. And that was a great privilege to do that. I did understand about politics, and I understood that politics is about friction, but I'll tell you this. Everything I ever did that mattered was bipartisan. I reached across the aisle, and I found someone on the Democratic side, and we worked together. Every time I gave in to the temptation to do something partisan, I regretted it. I would hope that this community, and I think we all care about this community, every single person in this room, whatever the odds are, we need to stick together. And whatever our differences are, we need to focus on what's best for the community as a whole, and to help our leaders understand that. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Wonderful note. Again, thank you everybody for coming out. Aaron, any last words, or are we good? We're good. So have a good rest of the evening. Stick around and help a little bit if you can. Please send us your map. Thank you very much.